and welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast, the bi-weekly all-cure podcast. I'm Gavin, and thank you for joining us this evening. We have a wonderful show coming up for you guys. We will be talking about the Archetypal Cure Sound. Yes, Chaz and Antonio will join me shortly for a wonderful conversation where we really hashed it all out. We got into the weeds, into the thick of it. What is the Archetypal Cure Sound? What could that possibly mean? Who knows? So stick around. You're going to love it. And I want to kick this episode off with a quick shout out to our Patreon crew. We haven't put these guys up front and center in a while. So I would love for you guys to check out patreon.com, the Holy Hour Podcast. See if what we have over there is appealing to you, because we'd love to have you on board and join these wonderful people. So Donna, Craig, Jeff Hilton, Jeff Cortland Jones, Sue, Ben, John, Alan, Allison, Dion, Amicio, Matt, Danny, Coulter, Matt Ford, Tom Johnson, Tom Burns, Letty, John Roberts, Francisco, Jason, Craig Bellinger, Amber, Nicholas, Jessica, Tim, Scott, Dana, Lisa, and Kate. Thank you all so much. You're very wonderful and kind people. And your support of the show goes a long way and means the world. Please stick around at the end of the episode. I'll read you some recommendations and promotions from our Patreon members and some really cool stuff that you'll want to check out. So thank you so much, Patreon crew. Love you guys. And feel free to join the party if you're interested, everyone else out there. And since we have a moment here before the episode starts, I'm going to kick this one off with a Cure origin story that was sent in to me back in July of this year. And it's a really cool story. It was typed up and sent in, and I was hoping to stockpile a bunch of origin stories so I could put them all together in a nice bundle for you guys. But this one's too good. I didn't want to just keep sitting and waiting on other ones to come in. So I figured I'd kind of wet our Cure whistle here and get you pumped up for the episode with a cool origin story. And this one is from Rian, and she is a younger Cure fan, but recently had two extremely awesome interactions. So this is how it all started for her. I was barely in the womb at the time Blood Flowers was released, but treasured nonetheless. I became a fan around the age 16 or 17, so that would be around 2017, and wanted to see them live ever since then, and finally, in 2022, it happened. Twice. I have a bit of a funny origin story. When I was in high school as a freshman, I used to love this band who had a song called Boy Don't Cry, one letter off of the iconic Cure song. So often I'd type into YouTube and get this Cure song instead. But I didn't care because I liked it. 2 to 3 years later, junior year, one of my favorite teachers used to play oldies music during class change. One time he played A Forest, and my angsty teen self got transported to another planet. Whose magical voice was this, and what kind of music was this? I'd never been so moved before. I had to know, so I cornered him after class and asked, "What is this song that you played earlier, with a beautiful intro about being lost in a forest alone?" He told me I should listen to The Cure. That was an understatement. It got to the point where he'd refer to me as the smartass millennial who likes The Cure. Later I realized it was the same band who had made the Boys Don't Cry song that I liked at age 14. My college dual degree program requires a mandatory year in Europe, and my turn was in 2022/2023. I was really hoping I'd be able to see them live in Europe, and to be honest, that was a huge part of the reason I did that particular program. I'm glad I did, because my whole ridiculous ploy worked better than I could have ever imagined. The two interactions. Part 1, Munich. First Cure show ever. Just a few days after my 22nd birthday. Robert looked questioningly at me during Alone's intro, probably because I looked like the only kid there. Reeves, Simon, Perry, and Bob saw and smiled at me multiple times during the show. And then, during Plain Song, Robert was prowling the stage and something possessed me to blow kisses at him. What does Bob do? He looks at me, blushes a little, smiles, catches the kisses and puts it to his heart and smiles at me again. I almost died. The legend chose to interact with me. So fucking sweet of him. I tried to scream thank you for the best birthday present ever, but he couldn't hear me so well. So I smiled and blew another kiss, hoping he got it. It was some sort of love message. After that, I noticed he smiled at me more during the show. Simon looked amused watching me dance like a weirdo. Interaction number 2 was in Stuttgart. So I was very excited, and I actually made Robert a little bunny and a note to throw on stage during a song with a long intro. During Alone, I was cheering and blowing kisses and waving the bunny, and Robert recognizes me. He starts prowling the stage again and stops right in front of us. He's looking at us and waving his finger and points directly at me and gives me a cute little wave and smiles and says really softly, "Hey, I remember you," in response to me blowing those kisses. I almost died. The iconic legend recognized me. Reeves and Simon also kept smiling at me. Simon looked amused watching me dance like a lunatic again. Unfortunately, I missed my opportunity during some of the other long intro songs and was starting to get a little bit desperate. So during Close to Me, I threw the present right at Robert as he turned around while dancing. Robert danced at me then too, and he was so stinking cute. Perry saw me throw it and he picked it up after the show and opened it up and started reading. His face was stone cold serious the whole show, but when he read my letter, his face changed to a smile. These interactions were so unexpected. I was happy to be in the same room as them, and I was happy I made the front row both times. But they were so much more special than any autograph or selfie. I don't want to harass or annoy them in public, but they chose to interact with me in this case. These were especially so sweet because all I wanted for the past 6 years was to see The Cure live, and honestly, I didn't even care if my ticket was in the very, very back row or what. I just wanted to be in the same room as them and experience one of their magical concerts, and the experience ends up being way more than I could have ever asked for. I was just so happy. These are literally my most treasured memories now. They played a lot of my favorite songs at both shows, and honestly, it felt like they knew I was coming. I don't like to be the fan that compares experiences because they're all so special, but I do sometimes wonder, like, what if I did get to see them for 2 seconds and snap a selfie with one of them, or got an autograph, or maybe I'm lucky enough to get the chance to see them 800 times. But I think I'd rather have fewer, more treasured experiences than a bunch that just fade into a blur in my head. Alright, I totally agree, and thank you so much, Rian, for the double whammy there. Not only a wonderful origin tale, but 2 interactions with the band. How cool is that? And 2 of the songs that you happen to mention bridge the gap of our most recent episode with Close to Me into the conversation we're about to have now. The most archetypal Cure song. Let's dive on in. Chaz and Antonio, all together again. Hello, fellas.
Hello. Howdy.
We got some real good Cure topics to discuss with you guys today. We hope everyone's doing good out there. And as we settle down from Chicago and gear up for South America, we figured we'd talk about this article that's been floating around out there. Chaz sent that over a few days ago. And it's funny, since then, I've been seeing more of these. It's from Far Out magazine online, and they're like these little articles that have been like popping up. Usually a lot of people just post them in like the Cure Facebook groups or something. And it's the one that we kind of referred to in the Close to Me episode. And just thumbing through stuff before we even called each other up today, I saw there was a new one about Let's Go to Bed on there. So they usually just take like some really old topic of the Cure and kind of rehash it and pull a few quotes from here and there. Like I said last time, it almost feels a little clickbaity because they're just real short to the point, kind of. They usually have some kind of like really shocking sounding title, like Robert Smith says this is the end, and then it's like some article from 1989 or something.
Yeah. What was the Love Cats one?
Oh, Let's Go to Bed was the new one.
Or Let's Go to Bed, I'm sorry.
It was something like the song Robert Smith wrote to lose Cure fans. Or something. Or something. Like he deliberately, or something like that, or it's like, well, yeah, from a certain point of view, maybe. And so, they're kind of out there, but if you go to the actual web page, it's not like there isn't like a picture of Robert Smith anywhere, so it's not like it's an all like 80s new wave just highlights thing. It's all it's like movie articles.
Or I think my favorite headline that I saw on one of the articles, and I was like, I'll read that later, is the Cure decision that fucking killed Robert Smith. Yeah. I was like, what? I know.
Was it getting a lull?
It's just something. It was just
I mean, the website is called Far Out.
Yeah. So there you go. And, I don't want to totally bash them because they're still fun to read, and it's not like
for
it's,
sure. It's just,
so it's gonna, but it is a little bit like, okay, and that's sort of where this one led to, where when Chaz said it over, I was like, okay, because on the surface, there's like a billion different ways you can look at it too, and it just drops like some quote, like we said, it's like from some other article, some other interview. They combine a few, and then even more weird, I think, is that when I started typing up thoughts on this one that we'll dive into in a second, I promise, that I saw like almost an identical same kind of website with the same article, but they just like had rearranged all the words, almost like a bot kind of AI thing or something. It wasn't connected to Far Out at all, so I don't know if this other one just totally snagged it from them and reworded it. But I was like, and I had it written up like kind of a response to that, but that just got kind of into a weird criticism on shitty journalism, and I was like, nobody needs to go. But it was just odd because it was the Close to Me one where it was like the same fucking article pretty much of just how Close to Me almost got left off the album was that article. And it was like, why would two people, it had like a current date and like an author's name, so somebody supposedly wrote it, but you could just plug something in if it was AI bots or something. I don't want to get too conspiracy theory on it or what. At the same time, it was just weird. I was like, all right. So maybe we should just dive into this article because it has a big reveal. The title of it is The Archetypal Cure Sound. Or it's like, I think the name of the article was something like Robert Smith declares this song has the archetypal cure sound. So you're like, fuck, what could that be? If you really think about it, it's pretty obvious right on the top. But at the same time, could be anything. What is he that passionate about? So what do you say? I'll read part of the article. I'll skim it here and summarize for everybody. But we'll all be on the same page here. Basically, it starts off written by Amy Ferrier, is who's credited anyway. August 14th, 2023. And the first paragraph just kind of talks about punk leading into post-punk. The second paragraph just kind of introduces the Cure, saying that they emerged in this time and starts listing some of their early albums. But then it gets into the article. It says, while writing 17 Seconds, Robert and bassist Michael Dempsey found themselves butting heads over new ideas for the band, leading the latter to leave. I think the final straw came when I played Michael the demos of the next album, and he hated them. He wanted us to be XTC Part 2, and if anything, I wanted us to be the Banshees Part 2, so he left, explained the frontman during an interview, in a much better interview, with Uncut Magazine. The album took inspiration from folk artists like Nick Drake, Leonard Cohen, while also honing a gothic sound, which the Cure soon became known for. The fantastic album contains several of the band's best songs, including Play for Today and A Forest, with the latter becoming their first entry into the UK singles chart top 40. And the big reveal, what song do you think he's talking about? We won't build up too much suspense. A Forest, with its iconic build-up into one of the band's most recognizable guitar riffs and driving bass line, is The Cure's most played song of all time, having performed it 1,180 times plus one last weekend or last whenever in Chicago a few years ago. Smith also considers the track one of his favorites, discussing its importance with the Chicago Tribune in a much longer, better article. He referred to the song as possessing the archetypal Cure sound. Smith added, "It was probably the turning point when people started listening to the group and thinking we could achieve something, including me." It's co-produced by Mike Hedges. The song represents a significant turning point for the band. The producer explained, "We wanted it to be quite ornate. It ended up being the most produced track on the album. To me, it always sounded like a single. We all thought it was an amazing song. I loved the guitar line, but we also figured it would take a bit more work than the others." End of the article. So there you go. Lots to unpack.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. So first, I loved it. The big turning point for the band. People really started taking them seriously finally with that first single off their second album. 1 full year into their career. It was a long, hard road for the Cure. Those guys really had to work for it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some bands are like around for 10 years before they have their first single.
Right, even acknowledged.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know. Were you guys expecting a different song by any means?
Well, no. Well, I mean, I already knew what song it was when I read, because I read it and sent it to you, because I was just like, let's see what they have to say. And
did it say A Forest in the original headline, like right off the bat?
No, I just clicked on it and it was just like, I gotta see what this is all about.
And but were you expecting, when you clicked on it, did you expect it to be a different song, or do you gotta?
I expected it to be "Boys Don't Cry" when I first clicked on it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, even though they've played A Forest the most times on most of the streaming services, when you look at the most played Cure song, it's usually "Boys Don't Cry."
Yeah.
And A Forest is usually not even in the top 5.
It is.
I went and checked that out. I was like,
It is on the surface like that, or just like Heaven, or like one of the ones that would be like the big obvious. But then when you think about it too, like especially with like any of these journalistic things at the top list, it has been like numerous times where they always put like A Forest as the number one, just to be like, oh, like a little bit. You didn't remember that one, did you? And everyone's like, okay, I guess that's the greatest Cure song of all time. And
well, even the fan poll.
Yeah,
remember that one?
Yeah, wasn't that?
Yeah, they ranked A Forest number 1, didn't they?
Yeah,
if I remember right.
Because we kind of lightly touched on that too. Where I'm like, well, I guess it is, and that's what's weird about this article. Like, I initially, all the weeks leading up to this, even had kind of misread it or thought that he was saying the Archetypal Cure song. And it is a kind of a difference between the song and the sound, I think, depending on how nerdy you get with it, because it's like, by archetypal, of course, the original pattern or model of which all things of the same type are representations or copies. So like a prototype. Yeah. So in that regard, and I never would question Robert Smith's word choice, but it is kind of more like, do you think the song is like representative, the most like a prototype for every Cure song? I don't know if I'd agree with, but maybe the prototype for every sound of a Cure song is kind of in there. So yeah, I mean,
when you think about it, and it's like, we've had this discussion, and it's the one that always gets rated top. But when you look at Disintegration, you could definitely see, like, and you listen to Disintegration, A Forest is definitely one of those songs that you can almost take that song and like put it on that record.
Yeah,
it really, you know what I mean? Like, it definitely was a a pullback to that feel.
Yeah.
You know, and it was that defining album that mixed everything for them. And A Forest kind of mixed it a little bit, because although it's like dark and gloomy, the guitar and the bass riffs are so fucking catchy that it's also catchy
right
in that way, because it's like it gets stuck in your head, you can dance to it, you know, like so I kind of see what he's saying, where it's like it's dark, it's this, it's that, I think it was their earliest song that had the little bits of elements of everything that would be them moving forward.
Right, it kind of cuts
the
difference.
I can see what he was trying to say. Yeah. I don't know if that word is the exact right word, but is there a word for it?
Yeah,
so it's like whatever.
I don't know. Because if you are talking specific sound, like you're saying, it is moody, but it is still catchy enough. It has all those elements that like stuff from Three Imaginary Boys didn't have necessarily. And the fact that it was like the early kind of prototype helps. You can't have your prototype song being like 10 years into your career or something, really. So it's
So and then when you think about the driving bass lines of the song Disintegration, of Fascination Street, of you could probably go on and on about, like, from a underlining bass standpoint, there is a very distinguished thing that is the Cure in that song that does translate throughout their career.
True.
Yeah, I think that as far, so you have a 3-piece, which is probably like the most minimum amount you can get. Mm-hmm. So that's a building block right there. But I think you have two different veins that the Cure kind of run in, and that's the sad, melancholy kind of sound, and then you have the poppier stuff.
Right.
So, I think that if you're going to go with that, I would probably say Boys Don't Cry would probably be the poppier archetypal sound.
Yeah.
That I think got them the most sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the sound of Forest got them their most fans.
But yeah, it is crazy, like you're saying, with the full ends of the spectrum. If you really look at, I guess that's how you would measure it, right? It would be that the archetypal song would be like dead center in the middle, of like kind of represents both sides of the light and the dark. Before we get too Star Wars on it or anything, but so I mean, I guess just for kicks, where would you? So yeah, what would you put on the two farthest ends of the spectrum? Like, what's the most poppy light side, and what's the darkest of darks?
Well, I went Boys. Well, I mean, Boys Don't Cry just because it's another 3-piece, so it's another just bass layer. But you could even go with Caterpillar or Love Cats.
Yeah, if you go full career,
or Close to Me. You could go Close to Me as like a new era, like coming into it, or In Between Days, one of the two.
Yeah.
But
even those have like the darker side of lyrics, so almost like Mint Car or Why Can't I Be You or something is where
too long.
Like on that side of the extra poppy, and then
well, I think for like as far as poppy catchy goes, I mean, Boys Don't Cry. Just it still sounds like it could have been written yesterday.
Yeah,
like.
The lyrics are sad though. So
that's what they are.
And the lyrics are sad.
More towards the middle. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It would be more of an argument that would be a good archetypal song, I think, if that's what you're saying. Or,
because but sad lyrics in a poppy sound.
Yeah,
where a Forest is like
depressing lyrics in a depressing sound.
In a depressing sound.
Yeah.
You have the same thing when it comes to like, same deep, a lot of the stuff on Disintegration, and then even Sinking, and some stuff on, not a lot, I don't think, on Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. There's a couple things here and there, but seems like more of a pop album than anything. But like Wish, you can even pull some stuff on there. Letter to Elise could be in there as like a pull off of that, but Yeah, I personally think there's two different sounds that you can go with, and two different archetypal sounds that I think they build most of their music off of.
Yeah, poppy or heavy.
To say there's one on a band that has as much music as they have, I think is very fucking difficult.
Yeah. Well, they're not the Ramones.
Right. I was just going to say, that's what I was going to say. Unless you're that band that just has that formula that just writes those songs, and they're by far not that bad.
That's why, like, if we broke it down to like song versus sound, like I didn't buy it as much for song because his writing is so diverse, especially if you look at the full perspective of their career. You can't say a Forest has really any connection to like Mint Car, Why Can't I Be, but sound wise, it is still got enough Cure in there. But this article doesn't seem like it's getting all gear heavy where they're not really focusing on like the chorus pedals or the reverb and the, you know what I mean?
But I think it's the main foundation of the song.
Yeah.
Meaning from a writing standpoint, it's driving bass line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the quintessential Robert Smith guitar lead. We've talked about this. He's the mediocre guitar player's god, because even if you're not great at guitar, you can play their leads. They're very simple, and they're like secondary melodies. And what he does different is he uses one string and slides all the notes off one string. Therefore, you get an eeriness in between the notes as opposed to the cleanness of notes when you're hitting them without sliding, like right. and the easier way where you wouldn't have to move your hand down, So it's that's something that he continued to do throughout their whole career that I think, like, not meaning to, but helped create a sound that all their songs have, because the way that you play certain notes will 100% change the sound. So he does that really, really well in that song, and that does translate throughout it. So you have the driving bass line, you have those kind of leads, and that's something that they always kind of took with them through their career.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even, we've been saying the 3-piece sound, the fact that this starts from the beginning, and the keyboards even being super just kind of simple keyboards from that, but even though they get more elaborate as the career goes on, but there's always that just kind of holding the chords a lot of times, but what were you going to say, Chaz?
Yeah.
I think my biggest argument would be against a Forest, and maybe even Boys Don't Cry to a lesser extent, is just the drumming, and the way that has impacted the band ever since they got Boris. You're taking a third of the band kind of out of.
Yeah, that's their biggest developmental instrument throughout their career by far is the drums. Not to shit on Lowell, but it is the biggest.
To a certain degree it was probably the plan up until about Pornography, and then was to keep the drums like that. So I mean, but that's a huge point, is that if you're going by their sound, it shifts drastically with each drummer. Even when Jason comes in, it's definitely a whole other vibe in a sense.
He's like a mixture of kind of the both of Boris and a drum machine.
Because he does. Because he is like a fucking human metronome. That guy,
right? But I think the drumming opens up the creativity of the band, especially when it comes. That's why I would argue, like, Close to Me or In Between Days over even Boys Don't Cry as a poppier layout of what's to come. Because I mean, we talked about Close to Me and how formative that is for the band going forward, and also their music videos too. I mean, if you take that into account too, with how quirky and weird it was,
that shift.
So
I even just like Heaven too.
That's I mean, I had kind of as a slot at the end of like, well, what would be better prototypes, and in a sense, especially if we're talking like you're saying, if you think singles and stuff, then like in a sense, just like Heaven, I kind of would lean towards that, because it is dark enough still, but it's poppy and is kind of the prototype. I mean, in a way, In Between Days came before it, but that one's. But I mean, as far as just like Heaven is like, where can you take In Between Days a step further? You know, and I think it just like Heaven is the step further because.
Well, but even with a prototype of the standard, you're gonna go above it and below it throughout in the other songs. So it's like, what's that middle line?
Right.
What's that main factor?
Because it is kind of like that factor with if you take In Between Days, then you take it to just like Heaven, but then the next step would be Pictures of You, but that's a little more leaning back to a Forest with the long ass intro, and it's a little more linear with the guitar parts and stuff, and and then if you take just even Pictures of You a little too far, the next one you got Letter to Elise.
You know, the other way, you could put a Forest and then put a Love Song. And make a connection all the way through that, with Sinking. I don't know what you would put on from Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy too is the more I think about it, in this discussion, is there a band that has more of an identity crisis in their songwriting, but yet still sounds like the same the same band? It's like
where they didn't reinvent themselves.
They could reinvent themselves from side A to side B on one record.
Yeah, it is. Really cool but frustrating.
Yeah, I was thinking of like I was thinking of like if you said what's a prototype Echo and the Bunnymen song, or Tears for Fear or
Depeche Mode,
any other they're contemporaries of that era. Even you could do U2, and I feel like all those bands have a sound that you could track through their entire, like, not as clear as the Ramones, of course, but like, or even the Misfits or something like that. But like, you could, the Cure, it's like, I feel like there's two different directions that you can go with them. And sometimes they'll meet. It's they'll go like this, and sometimes they'll crash together, like with like Letter to Elise,
right?
And
or even Pictures of You, like we've said, where it's like if you're sad, then it can be a super sad song, but it can also get played in the extended mix in a nightclub, and everyone's dancing to it, having a great time, So I mean, it is pretty crazy, and that was definitely the wall.
They make you laugh, they make you cry, they make you want to dance, they make you want to punch a wall. I mean, it's like.
But the only thing that bothers me is taking out the drumming, and I think if you the drumming on the more sadder songs isn't as complex and like outlandish as the poppier ones. So I can see a Forest taking like that direction, that path, but like,
or
I don't
even vocally in the sense of like. You could say,
definitely.
Well, that's definitely the one, like we're saying, their music, if you put Mick Carter or 13th next to Faith, without vocals, nobody would ever guess they're the same band, I mean, technically, two people were the same. But vocals is what connects it, everything. Robert's voice is so distinct, and you know what I mean? He could sing over anything, and it automatically becomes a Cure song in a sense, which sounds like it's diminishing the band, but in the sense it's just that glue that makes it a more Cure song. But maybe that's what he means too with the Forest, in the sense that drastic shift from the Three Imaginary Boys post-punky kind of kind of singing versus more.
But he doesn't the thing with Close to Me, or even In Between Days, is that the way he plays with his voice. Unlike where he does with the sadder songs, where it's a lot more melancholy. So as his instrument, his other instrument of singing, I think you have a prototype where he's on the top, where he's playing with his voice more, and where he didn't do that really before. So
it's hard to say those are two direct.
I'm kind of disagreeing a little bit more with this.
It's very. I went back and forth like 500 times too, where I was just like, but no, but
because you can't discount the drumming and you can't discount his change in the voice. But I can definitely agree with the way he's playing the guitar.
Now here's my question about this.
So
that statement was made to the Chicago Tribune during this current fest, like when. I feel like
that's a great point.
I cannot tell when he said this.
Yeah, that's
that's a huge part of it. I mean, if he said this, in the fucking early '90s, I mean,
then
yeah, and you asked him that today, I don't know if his answer would be the same. So I'm like,
yeah.
I'm very, I can't.
Yeah, or was it right after like pornography or something where it's like, of course, at that point they shifted and it was a big turning point. So, yeah, but then it's like, well, there's a lot of fucking turning points.
Yeah.
It's
a very fucking windy road.
Yeah, so it is interesting. And yeah, I wonder when that, because they don't say, and that's the problem with these kind of interviews. Like you're saying, he just said that he said it to uncut. So maybe that thing that was like, I don't know. But, that was kind of what, going back to the word choice and stuff, or maybe he is leaning more towards it's the most representative song. It seems to make a little more sense in that regards, like not so much thinking prototype, every song was built off of this song and stuff like that. But if you think of it, if you had to pick one Cure song to encompass everything, and that's kind of what we've been saying. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that would be the most representative one, in a sense.
No, because I think there's three different types of Cure fans.
Yeah, definitely.
There's the ones like Donald that only like the depressing, slow stuff.
So yeah, that would be like
there's
the closest
that like
pop
a mixture of both
you could give him.
Yeah, like us, and then there's people that just like the pop stuff. That's
so it could be that. Could be that's the song that all the different fan bases of the different eras all really agree on, maybe.
Yeah,
causing that.
Like if you had the Venn diagram, the one song in the middle.
I don't think it would be a forest.
You don't think so?
I don't think, because I don't think the poppy people would. They would be like, no, I don't like this. I think it would be more like Boys Don't Cry would probably be the one that I think kind of, because it's early enough where the sad boys will still be like, okay, it's old. I can be with it.
You get the dark and mysterious in the lyrics, but not necessarily in the music.
Yeah, but even when my kids were both discovering like really the Cure like on their own, not just like in Dad's car, like where Elvis leans to Close to Me and In Between Days, but still the first time he heard A Forest and today it's still on his rotation of songs. And the same thing with my daughter, who really got into the Cure because of Burn, and then, but still she loves A Forest. It's like, it's interesting. Like it,
because it is catchy enough to be a single still and poppy enough, know? So I mean, to a certain degree.
Well, you take Burn and it is, you could do an archetypal from A Forest there, but you don't have the drumming and you don't have the complexity and you don't have the singing that Robert brings to it. But like I could definitely, you could go from one to another and not skip a beat. Yeah. But I don't know.
But if you go A Forest to Love Cats, you're like, what just happened here?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
It's like the far end of the.
But even A Forest to mid car that's a jump too far for some people.
So it's pretty interesting. So it's hard to say you would almost have to pick three songs, if you were trying to be like, all right, somebody's never heard the Cure. Here's this band.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, or their preference. If like you're saying, like somebody that only likes the dark ones, you're not gonna give them Love Cats right out of the door, or something. It's like, here's A Forest, So in that regard, it is the best one.
So what would be the song that has the darkness, the driving bass, the drumming, and the guitar work?
That's what I kind of thought. Just like Heaven would be the best, Just it's a little more.
I just hate that it's like an 87.
Yeah,
Well,
or Fascination Street.
That's an 89. That's like even further. Like I'm trying to go. Like I'm trying to keep it, But I'm like at a 5-piece. Like it's got to be somewhere off of, Head on the Door.
Yeah. Yeah, in that regards, In Between Days or something would kind of represent both eras of the Cure, and the most. Because, it's tough because there is such a drastic
6 different ways is kind of too out there where it could be like on the top.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of, even though a night like this is kind of, can be a little dated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think In Between Days would probably be the one that kind of combines all that with the lyrics, the voice, the drumming, the bass line, relatively simplistic guitar work compared, what he can build off of it. Like, I don't know. That's and fan
But even with just like having an 87, that's really only about like 10 years into their career when you think of the full. So it's not like it's too late in the catalog or anything. But at the same time, I see what you're saying, but it's gotta.
I'm just like we lost Donald's already. We lost all the Donald's.
I don't know. I mean,
they might hang on.
And that's such a great song that it's kind of like even if you never listen to another Cure song in your life, most people would still be happy to just hear Just Like Heaven on the radio or something, and be like, it's a good song. Yeah. I feel like there's
or you're getting drilled by the dentist.
Like, this is great. Who's this band? Funny you should ask. I have 3 different songs you need to listen to. So, I guess kind of on those lines for a side Patreon topic I did that stemmed off of the Close to Me, what we did last time. I just did a quick ramble about what was the best Cure song to put on a mix for somebody. So it's kind of in the same ballpark of like if you're introducing them.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's somebody, a loaded question though. Yeah. Is it a friend you're trying to get into the Cure? Is it someone you're trying to date? Is it,
Exactly.
that's a loaded question,
So I left them with the general, so I won't tell my side. You have to subscribe to Patreon to hear my answer, but I want to hear you guys as if you had the scenario of somebody that just maybe had heard the greatest hits a couple times in passing, but didn't really know much about the Cure, and you're giving them a mix. And so anything's fairly fair game, but you probably are like, they've probably heard Just Like Heaven somewhere. One of those kind of people. What song would you put? You had to put one Cure song on there for sure. So which would you choose, you think?
I'm not giving the wrong impression to anyone, so I'm not putting like love song on anything. So
we'll say there's no romantic ties. They're just a friend that's cool, has good taste in music, but has just somehow missed the fucking Cure altogether, other than hearing the occasional single on the radio or video on MTV.
I almost want to be like, I'd put Too Late, but like that's like poppier.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh man.
Because then you have those kind of categories where it's like if they have heard a good chunk of the Cure, the B-sides are always great because there's a chance
like
that
Halo
would
be perfect.
Yeah, Halo or Exploding Boy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Halo. You just took the words out of my mouth. I think that would be my one where I'm like, you probably haven't heard this one on the radio, but to me, it's one of those. I feel like it's a defining song from a sound standpoint. Like, it's got the the cool keyboard part. It's got the
Disintegration's like my favorite song. So like, and it's not on the radio.
Yeah,
it's
Disintegration would be another good one.
But it's 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
So
Olive side too.
Yeah.
Click.
Oh man, Halo's a great song.
It might be the most underrated.
It'd be good.
Cure. I mean, well, it's a B-side.
Well, I love the idea that we're all kind of thinking B-sides. I mean, what the fuck band even exists? If you were trying to sort of introduce somebody to them, you would even be like, I'm going to go with a B-side.
There are not too many bands that have
that's pretty cool.
Like, mega B-side. Or honestly, Burn is another one. Definitely one that makes it onto a shit ton of playlists or mixtapes mixes that I would make for people. So Burn's probably up there too. Burn and Halo, I think, would be my two.
Yeah, those are definitely good. I would love to say The Exploding Boy, or even Sugar Girl.
Yeah,
are two great B-sides. But then you kind of be like, you kind of want to replicate it in another song, and I don't think they really did Exploding Boy Part 2 anywhere. So
closest is In Between Days, and then you go down that rabbit hole.
Even Edge of the Deep Green Sea.
I feel like you could give us something off of Halo.
Yeah.
So Edge of the Deep Green Sea is another good one, but that one's another long one.
Yeah,
so if I was going to go with the long one, I'd go with Disintegration.
But then again, I feel like I'm gonna say something fucking cocky here. It's not even cocky, but anybody that would be worthy enough of getting a mix from me would have to be cool with a fucking 7-minute song anyway. You know what I mean? Like we're talking some nerd shit.
That's very true.
I'm gonna give you some fucking music nerd shit, like, and you're gonna fucking like it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I definitely have to go with Disintegration. Be like, this song got me through a lot.
If you don't like it, I fucking hate you.
It's like flex.
Like, jeez, there's a lot riding on this mix.
The lyrics, his voice, like it's everything to me. So yeah,
very cool. Yeah, I don't think I ever even came up with a definitive answer. It was just for every scenario of like this person likes punky stuff.
Exactly.
This person likes
this is someone you're trying to make out
like
with.
You can't really. Yeah, exactly. Or even had made out with, and you're trying to
woo them back.
Rekindle the relationship. Yeah, we went down that hole, but yeah, it's So yeah, it's as complicated as the prototype question, I guess, in the sense of you know, it's just tough to do probably for, I don't know. It's like you were saying though, like a lot of bands you could trace it back to a very defining song, even if they have been around for 40 plus years at this point. You know, it's like I think it is just a testament to how diverse their sound is and how they have evolved and reinvented themselves so much over the years, where it's good that you can't just be like, yes, because you could do it a lot easier if they had just ended at pornography, you know, and you're trying to sum up that first dark era, or if you just wanted to sum up the head on the door up golden era kind of thing, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, but when you merge the worlds, that's where it gets complicated.
So, I mean, nothing past not too much past the last few records is making it on any of these conversations.
I think those are all, if you like them, you like this at that point. You know, you're not, but they're good for, if you go back to the mix idea of like, if they like The Cure but just haven't heard anything after Wish, you know, there's plenty of people out there like that. So then you're like, you haven't heard Underneath the Stars, you know, and shit like that. It's like,
it's funny because that's one I always want to throw on a mix for people, but I'm like, no, because I don't want them to jump to that record, listen to it, and go, "That's The Cure."
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
They're like, holy shit!
You're like, this is the one exception.
You got to put an asterisk by it.
Did you guys ever have to like write little notes on your mixtapes too to explain?
Yeah.
Shit?
Oh man, I would fucking write it on loose leaf paper and then have to fold it up and put it into the thing because I was like, I can't write it on this whole little thing.
Little liner notes to go for your mixtape.
Well, the worst is when it was the one that only had the one, but sometimes they had like a 3 fold out, so you could write more in it that was blank. Yeah. But you know, the other ones, it was just like the top side and the bottom side, and I was like, God damn, I can't.
Yeah,
it's so annoying when you'd run out. You'd have to squeeze it in, and you're drawing arrows and shit going over to where side 2 really starts. Yeah,
exactly. Because then you also almost want to write which album it was on. You know, like not just the band name of the song, or not just the song names. And now you're like, fuck it. It's
the producer and what year it came out.
Well, actually, this is the amplifier they used on this recorder.
Yeah, like Jesus, too much information. Very cool. Well, cool. I guess maybe we can wind down with that. We don't have to beat the archetypal horse to death. But we're curious, you guys out there, what you think. Does this add up as far as the archetypal Cure song, or most representative Cure song, or just a good entry point if somebody has never heard the Cure? So, in a sense, yes to all those, and in a sense, no to all those. So, we're back where we started.
Thanks for not giving an answer.
Feel free to drop which one would be your archetypal song on the Facebook page and get that going between everybody, you know, like curious, because it's again, I want to go like deeper and dive and try to find out like when he said this. I think that's the factor that is driving my brain turning, you know.
Yeah, I'll put that on my homework before this episode comes out. I'll try to track that down, and maybe I'll find Amy Ferrier and see what her opinion is, since she wrote this.
Yeah. Find her on X.
Do you agree?
Right?
Yeah. It's like, oh wait, right? That's Twitter. Yeah. I was like, I can't go on that, man. That's some dark web shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's on pornography, the album or the website?
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much, guys. Great to have everybody together.
Thank you.
And I guess up next, we got our Halloween episode coming up. So stay tuned, everybody out there. And for now, Antonio, Charles, thank you. Why did I call you Charles? I guess I'm reading your name.
That's all right.
Ooh, you're in trouble. you better go to your room.
We got real
Chaz.
formal here all of a sudden.
All right, Mom.
Charles? All right. I'm going to go let this coffee buzz wear off now. I'm talking real fast. All right. Talk hard. All right, again, a very big thank you to Chaz and Antonio and you guys for listening. I know this was a bit of a rambly one, kind of like a dog chasing its own tail here. Sometimes, it's fun just to have these kind of Cure conversations where you're at the back of the bar wondering. So maybe that was the problem. We weren't at the back of the bar. We were in the morning there, so maybe a few more drinks and it would have made a little bit more sense, maybe, but hard to say. So thank you for weathering it with us. I'm curious to see where your thoughts lay on Cure Archetypal Sound /song. So. All right, we're going to wrap up as promised with a few Patreon promotions, as we love to do. Our Patreon members are very talented people and love to make you aware of a couple businesses and projects they have going on out there. Tim is a loyal Patreon member and a member of New Waterloo, a company that owns and operates 5 hotels. You can find them in Austin, Texas at the South Congress Hotel, the Waymore's Guest House in Nashville, Tennessee, then zip on up to Baltimore at the Revival, and then you can zigzag all the way back to California, Merced, California, and stay at the El Capitan, and go back on home to Texas, Fredericksburg, Texas. By 2024, you'll be able to stay at the Albert. And of course, Scott Kruger is over at the Sarlacc Digest, the coolest Star Wars podcast you could ever wish for. Boy, did they put out a really great finale episode of the Ahsoka series. All the wonderful little details and great at theory crafting, as they call it, where they predict what is going to happen next. So, great show every Wednesday on YouTube, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can also catch the replays everywhere you listen to podcasts. And Dana is the one you want to get in touch with if you are in need of any kind of motion design or animation for your project or business. Just go check out graphics.tv. That's graphics with an X.tv. And you can check out some of her work there and see what she can do for you. October is here. Kate is working hard at wrangling all of the hashtag CureTober artwork that is being posted on Instagram. Each day, you are assigned a Cure song to inspire you to create any art, any level, any medium. Just hashtag it with CureTober 2023 and be sure to tag Cure Arts Collab in that post and you'll be good to go. And then, reward yourself by going on over to curethreads.com, picking out some Cure-inspired original artwork by Kate herself on a wide range of quality products. Up in Calgary and want to check out a show, go to dickensyyc.com. We'll tell you all the upcoming shows and events as recommended by Lisa. And if you're further south, like Little Rock, Arkansas, and want to hit up a cool goth show, Club Nevermore is your spot. Jessica says clubnevermore.com. That's going to tell you everything that's coming up. Check it out. The Excommunication Station is a wonderful podcast hosted by our very own Chaz, where they dig up all the bad, the worst, and the ugly of growing up in the church. You can catch them anywhere you listen to podcasts. Speaking of podcasts, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, The Holy Hour, on Instagram. You can follow us at The Holy Hour Podcast and follow that Facebook page. We'll post a picture of that little bunny that Rian threw up on stage at Robert Smith and all kinds of other great goodness to go along with this episode. And you're always welcome to email me directly at gavinconnor@gmail.com. Have some wonderful episodes coming up, including our Halloween episode up next. Till then, talk hard.